Yo, what is up YouTube? My name is Rednu. Thank you guys so much for checking out my channel. Right now, we are going to be talking about my skystriker list that I climbed to Master 1 recently with. If you missed it, we actually did hit Master 1 recently on a live stream. I think it was yesterday we hit it, last night, or I don't know, it's like 4 a.m. right now, so it's a little hard to tell like which day it was. But I mean, if you look at my last skystriker live stream, that's where we got Master 1. And what I wanted to do was talk a little bit about my deck list, the one that I used to finally make that final push from Master 2 to Master 1. My climb has been a series of ups and downs. It's taken us a long time to get here, probably longer than a lot of people, right? But I think we finally nailed down a list that actually works. My entire climb is on YouTube, by the way. I don't play a single Yu-Gi-Oh game off stream when it comes to trying to climb with Master 1 to Master 1 rather with Skystrikers. So what I wanted to do was talk about my deck list, some of the choices I made and why they were made this way, and also talk about some of the cards that I didn't play. This is, by the way, not a guide. Let me just first start off by saying that this is not a guide. This is a deck profile, so I am going to be talking as if you do have a good understanding, at least well enough understanding of like how Skystrikers work and how the cards function. If you are confused about anything, go ahead and check out my Skystriker guide. Now, the only thing that I don't really cover in that guide really is linkage, so I will talk about this a little bit over here. But that being said, everything else is pretty much spot on and describes to you what all the cards do, what their function is, and how you use them properly. So this is a Skystriker list. It is a pure Skystriker list. There's no Runic, there's no Naturia, there's no Exodia, there's like, it's just pure Skystrikers, okay? And so we have 3 Skystriker Ace Rays, obviously, right? Skystriker Ace Ray is the core monster of the deck. She's able to revive herself every time your Link monsters die, right? We also have 1 Rose. Playing 1 Rose is not a cut and dry decision because you could very well play 2. And the reason why you would play 2, especially in this kind of variant, is because of the Pot of Desires over here. So with Skystrikers, with this list, and with the recent addition of Linkage, or relatively recent anyway, Skystrikers can OTK if the board is empty, if there's no interaction. The way you do this is Ray and Linkage is all you need for the OTK. Ray swing for 15, Hayate swing for 15, dump Rose. Then you use Linkage to swap Hayate and go into Kagari. Linkage will make Kagari into a 2500 attack creature. Now you use Linkage again. You could swap to Shizuku, you could swap to Kaina. Either one will do fine because Linkage will again make their attack 2500 and that's 8000. Great OTK, right? It's really nice to steal away some games, especially when you are a blind second Skystriker deck. A lot of people assume that you are playing Numeron, and so they try and leave their board empty. This is a very good OTK strategy here, or at least it's a good option that you do have. Now, bringing it back, right? Bringing it back to like why 1 Rose then, right? Why would some people play 2 instead of 1? Well, the reason why is because of Desires. Pot of Desires banishes 10 cards from the top of your deck, face down, to draw 2 cards. It is essentially Pot of Greed. This is quite possibly the best card in this deck. Or rather, the reason why I was able to make the final push into Master 1. See, we'll go into that a little bit more, but essentially what I wanted to say, bringing it back to the Rose, right? If you're banishing 10 cards from your deck, face down, there is a chance that you banish Rose. And if you banish Rose, well, all of a sudden, you don't have your Linkage OTK option, right? But that's fine, because Linkage OTK isn't the main centerpiece focus by far of Skystrikers, right? And this is even further illustrated by the Upstart Goblins that we have over here. Upstart Goblin allows you to draw 1 card, but it also gives your opponent 1000 life points. So, remember going over that OTK earlier, right? Ray, Hayate, Linkage Hayate for Kagari, Kagari, recycle Linkage, use Linkage again to swing for Shizuku. That is exactly 8k damage, right? And this card gives him 1000. So it puts you further away from that OTK condition, but that's okay, right? Because what's happening is you're not really reliant on the OTK. Okay, Sky Strikers is a very versatile deck. It is an anti-meta deck. It is a control deck. The goal of any Sky Striker deck is to take away as many resources from them as possible, and then with the help of Engage, and now with Desires, and as well Upstart, you are able to sort of race past them in terms of card advantage, because Engage is a straight +1 meaning you get one more card than the card used to use it, right? As well as Desires is a +1, right? So you pull ahead with the sheer amount of card advantage, your amount of tools that you have available to you, right? And that's how you are able to control and run away with the game. So that is the main focus of the deck. This is a, as you see in the name, a draw variant of Sky Strikers. It is very focused on drawing cards and running away with the game by pure card advantage, because Sky Strikers have a lot of tools to control the game. You have Afterburners, destroy a monster, and if you have 3 spells, destroy a spell and trap. You have Widow Anchor, which is able to negate the effects of a face-up monster as well as steal them if you have 3 or more spells in your grave. You have Impermanence. You have Linkage to dodge effects. You have Shark Cannon to banish monsters. You have a lot of ways to control the game with Sky Strikers, and the better way, the more ways you have to control, the more cards you have at your disposal, the easier it is to keep your opponent from playing the game. And we all know that's the object of Yu-Gi-Oh, right? We do play 3 Max C, obviously. This is the best card in the game. You should always play 3 Max C. It counters every single Yu-Gi-Oh deck out there, and it basically allows you to steamroll the game if you're going first and you have your combo, or you're able to come back from being a second turn player, right? Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring stops a lot of great cards, and it's not always an auto pick, but with cards like Branded Fusion being heavily played, right? Any play starter like Punk, Zeamin, right? Zeamin being able to search, or Foxy Tune, right? Foxy Tune being able to special summon from deck. You get the picture here. Ash Blossom stops a lot of plays, right? 1-card combos from occurring. So it is a very good card, as well as a lot of it is to really just stop opposing Max C as well, right? So Ash Blossom is obviously a really good pick. Reinforcement of the Army, consistency card, allows you to grab a Ray, grab a Rose, right? Obviously Engage is why you play Sky Strikers. You pick a Sky Striker card, you draw another card. Afterburners, very good card. You are destroying a monster and you are destroying a spell trap on the field. This is actually very good in this particular meta right now. This meta, again, this is the season of August. This is season 20. And the reason why I am playing 2 Afterburners, most people play 1. Most people play 1 Afterburners, and the reason why I'm playing 2 is not only because of Desires. See, when you play Desires, it sort of necessitates or asks you to make your deck a more consistent build, because you have the opportunity, or rather the risk, you run the risk of banishing your 1-ofs, right? So I run the risk of banishing my 1-of Rose and shutting out my Linkage OTK, for example, right? But that doesn't really matter when I'm not totally reliant on Linkage OTK. What I am reliant on, right, is my ability to control the game and to control the pacing and reduce the amount of cards that my opponent controls, which is why we do have 2 Afterburners here, and 2 Afterburners is usually very, very good, because in this meta there are a lot of Kashtira players. Kashtira players tend to leave a lot of monsters with not a lot of protection, not a lot of negates, right? So Afterburners is a great way to destroy them, and as well you get to destroy very annoying cards in this format, which is Kashtira Birth, right? Which include Bestial Regained, right? Sorry, Branded Regained. Afterburners is something I will need in almost every single game, and so I run 2 just on the off chance if I do banish it with Pot of Desires, but also just because it's a great card in this meta. We also do have 2 Triple Tactics Talent. So Triple Tactics Talent is very good in this format. because of tier limit players, right? There are not that many bestials running around, surprisingly, but bestials are still a thing, and if bestials take away your Ray, take away your Rose, right, you are able to punish them with triple tactics, as well as punish any hand traps like Max C or Ash Blossom occurring during your turn. Shangri-Ira, if they manage to make Shangri-Ira, it is very annoying because it gets over destruction, right? It basically requires 2 cards. It requires you to have Widow Anchor, it requires you to have Afterburners, and that way you're able to destroy them. Triple Tactics Talent is also a great card to just get over Shangri-Ira as well. If Shangri-Ira does summon another Kashtira monster, like Fenrir, like Ogre, like Unicorn, it's pretty easy in the main phase to bait them, use triple tactics, take them over, and then you could swing, go into Zeus, right? Or you could even attack Shangri-Ira and then take it with triple tactics and then go into Zeus, basically stealing it, right? So triple tactics talent, very, very useful. It's easy to sort of proc the effects of the Kashtira monsters, right? As well, there are tier elements to worry about, there are sprites to worry about, right? Tier elements and sprites commonly activate things in your main phase. They rely on Elf. Sprite Elf is a card that is very popular in this format. It's very likely that Sprite Elf will continue to be very popular because it's just so very good. And Triple Tactics Talent is that much better because Sprite Elf exists, because IP Masquerena is being used at the moment, and because there are a lot of interactions in your main phase with other monsters. The other thing that we have over here is Area Zero. Area Zero is just a great card because it's another way to get into Ray, right? It's not the best, right? But it's another way to get into Ray. It's a way for you to dump monsters that you steal, right? It's a way for you to get more cards. You dump this with multi-roll, right? And you're able to get a Ray, push for OTK, right? Or a Rose. It is a good card. It's also used a lot to just dump with Hayate, right? So dumping Area Zero with Hayate is usually the default if you're just trying to build the spells in your grave. It's a Skystriker name, and you kind of want to be able to keep your Skystriker names in the graveyard sort of clean, because Shizuku can only search Skystriker spells that are not in your graveyard. Multi-roll, obviously another very key card for Skystrikers, right? Being able to reset all your spells, and as well doing the Shizuku Shuffle, being able to lay down a effect negation every turn, right? This is just a very good card. No reason why you shouldn't play it. I play 2. I usually play 1, but I play 2 because it is essential. It is a very essential card to be able to pull ahead of your opponent in terms of card advantage, because it is able to recycle those spells that you use and get you another usage of them. Called by the Grave, very good for handling hand traps, obviously, right? Being able to continue your play regardless. It's also a spell. Hornet Drones is a starter card. Widow Anchor is... there's not a lot to say about Widow Anchor. It's the best. It's one of the best like tools in Skystriker's toolbox. Negate an effect or steal a monster, both, very, very good. Shark Cannon, being able to banish and also being able to special summon a monster. So Shark Cannon has been very, very good, especially in this format, because you do see a lot of the times you see a Baron de Fleur on the opponent's graveyard. If you see a Baron de Fleur on the opponent's graveyard, you have your 3 spells, you're able to take her, and if you don't have, you know, a lot of Skystriker back row that needs your main monster zones to be clean, then you could rely on Baron de Fleur. You can also rely on Fenrir. You could steal Fenrir's, and that is also a nice form of sort of not negation, but it is like a retaliation, right? Being able to banish something if they try to start their play is very, very strong, right? As well, kind of denying them from being able to revive it from birth, right? Just having it on your field, right? So Fenrir is very, very nice to steal with Shark Cannon, right? You also, against the Sprite matchup, you could take Masquerena, right? Masquerena, you're able to make your Ningirsu and trash an Avermax if need be, right? So a lot of uses for Shark Cannon. Banishing tier element names is another function. It is very versatile. I could see this in some people's lists bumping up to 2, especially if you're running into more tier elements. If you notice, this deck list doesn't really assume or isn't very strong versus tier elements per se, right? But if you are running into more tier elements, I definitely think this could come up to 2. Linkage is your OTK card, but it's also just, it's like a better Eagle booster, almost, in a sense, right? So what linkage is, it's a swap. It's a swap from your current Link armor into another armor, right? So if you're controlling a Hayate, you can use linkage. Linkage will send Hayate to the graveyard and allow you to swap into Kagari, into Shizuku, into Kaina, right? Any of the Link ones, right? If you do not control Link armor, then you're able to send spells with linkage instead in order to summon any one of your armors. So this is a combo card. It's an OTK combo card. It is also a sort of combo-ish starter card. It's basically a starter card for all intents and purposes, because the likelihood that you don't have something that you can send to the graveyard with linkage in order to go straight into your armor, like Hayate, and dump Ray, right? Or dump a spell and get your engine going, right? Is very, very unlikely. So she's, for all intents and purposes, linkage is a starter card. It is also an OTK combo enabler. It is also a form of interaction. You're able to linkage into Kaina. Maybe on the opponent's turn, you linkage into Kagari. If you don't think your Skystriker Link monster will survive, you can linkage into Kagari and get your engage early, right? There's just a lot of ways you can use linkage for dodging, right? Dodging targeted effects. It is a very, very versatile, very good card. Probably one of the best cards in this deck. And finally, we have Infinite Impermanence. Infinite Impermanence, we play it at 3. It's actually good enough to stop a lot of things. One thing that I didn't really think I'd be using Infinite Impermanence a lot on, but I ended up doing so anyway, is Kashtira Unicorn. Kashtira Unicorn is very, very annoying. Not only is he able to get rid of one of your Kagaris, is he able to get rid of your Zeus so that you can't steal the Shangri-Ira to go into Zeus and, you know, slap a Zeus on top of it, right? Is he able to dump your Azalea? Maybe. Well, honestly, it's more harmful if he dumps Zeke, right? So Unicorn is very, very annoying, right? Not only does he destroy a part of your extra deck, he searches probably the most annoying card in this entire format, which is Kashtira Birth. So Kashtira Birth, this card is, the way it's written, it's basically designed directly with the intent of screwing up Skystrikers. That is this card's entire purpose of being, I am convinced. Because what does it do? This card lets you get a Monster Reborn every single turn. Every single turn, it's a Monster Reborn. You're able to special summon a Kashtira monster from Banish or the graveyard, right? You can normal summon level 7 monsters without tributing, so I've seen the most wildest things, from even summoning Apex Avian with this, right? That's not very good. But either way, right, you're able to special summon other Kashtira monsters likely, and it's just, it takes so much to get rid of this card. Every turn, Kashtira Birth is just giving them more and more and more and more value, right? Being able to revive your Kashtira monsters and utilize their effects to destroy your extra deck, to remove cards from your field. It is so good. And not only that, right? The worst thing about this card, the absolute worst thing, is the final effect, the secret effect. Not really secret, it's really just annoying versus Skystrikers specifically. If your opponent activates a spell card or effect and you control a Kashtira monster, you can target 3 cards in your opponent's graveyard, banish them face down. This is the absolute worst card for Skystrikers. You're seeing this card, this is the worst card to run into, because what happens is every Skystriker spell needs 3 spells engraved in order to get their bonus effect. Skystrikers are so weak without this bonus effect, and this card, it's designed to keep them at their weakest state of not having 3 spells in their graveyard, because every spell you resolve, Kashtira Birth activates in a subsequent chain, in the following chain, and gets rid of 3 things, right? So it's really annoying, because as soon as you get that 3rd spell, as soon as your 3rd spell falls into your graveyard, boom, Kashtira Birth is able to be triggered and banishes 3. As long as they control a Kashtira monster, which if they have Birth, they probably do. So it is absolutely this is probably the worst enemy to skystrikers in this current format, and it is something that they almost always have and they're almost always able to get, unless you imperm the unicorn. Just imperm the unicorn, right? Dealing with birth, I guarantee you, will require so many more resources. Playing around birth and dealing with birth will require so many resources, it will basically destroy your entire game if you let this card resolve on the field and you don't have an answer for it. That is also why I'm playing against 3 Ghost Ogres. So very good segue, because 3 Ghost Ogres is probably the most questionable card that is in this deck. 3 Ghost Ogres is very good in this format. It really is. I'm just going to say it. It's very good in this format because of Kashtira Birth. It exists. It demolishes your strategy. It steamrolls you with advantage. It is the worst threat to exist on this format versus Skystrikers. The other thing that is also a really bad threat, Branded Regain allows them to draw a card each turn. It's so easy to do because they're able to always banish a card, right? They draw one on their turn, they draw one on your turn. Then, when you try to play the game of Yu-Gi-Oh! By normal summoning or special summoning, they get to have a monster reborn for a bestial monster. So, these cards, Branded Regained, right? Branded Regained and Kashtira Birth are absolutely insane. They're the largest threats. You can also take care of preparations. That's why we play Ghost Ogre. Ghost Ogre and Snow Rabbit is also very good against Gigantic Sprite. Gigantic Sprite, if this one isn't protected by a Sprite Red, which actually happens quite often. Yeah, Sprite Red is not always out when you're fighting against sprites, especially after they did receive a slight hit to the consistency. Gigantic Sprite is not always protected, and if you Ghost Ogre and manage to resolve it against Gigantic Sprite, that's usually the end of their combo. That's usually you win the game. Ghost Ogre just has so many applications. Whether it's versus Sprite, you get rid of Gigantic. Versus Kashtira, you get rid of Birth. Versus Branded Despia, you get rid of Bestial Regained, or I'm sorry, Branded Regained. It is somewhat useful against the best deck in the format. Arguably the #1 threat, but right now, towards the end of the month, we didn't get to fight that many. That's why we played with this variant. But that being said, it is still very good against Teal'c's in getting rid of Scream. Getting rid of Scream is very good. It's always nice. And getting rid of Sulliek on, you know, subsequent activations, which is not very often, but it happens, you know? So it's good enough for those. It is good enough for those. And the fact of the matter is that this targets 3 different matchups that are also going to be very, very frequent. So Ghost Ogre is just very good. Another deck that is running around a lot that is quite annoying as well are the Valence. Shinonome is a pendulum card, basically is their play starter. It is able to add a Valence monster, and it's not Valence that's necessarily the best card, or rather a good archetype. It's not like they're a huge threat, but it's annoying because this archetype enables a first turn kill. Basically, their first turn kill is basically them being able to summon Fossil Dyna alongside Secret Village of the Spellcasters. As well, they're able to protect it with this card, Arctos, who, if he can move a monster, he gets to pop one. So they have a pop one, they have a special summon Floodgate, and they have a spell Floodgate, which spell Floodgates are very annoying for Skystrikers. You're not even able to really get rid of them because that Arctos is able to pop your monster, so you can't fight the Fossil Dyna, neither can you fight the Spellcaster, who Ray could handle had it not been for, you know, Arctos, essentially. There's just a lot of incentive right now to play Ghost Ogre. Ghost Ogre is very, very good. Alright, yeah, moving on to the extra deck. So the extra deck, Zeus, everyone always asks why one Zeus? Why do you play this one Zeus? The reason why is because you have cards that steal. So Triple Tactics Talent, you have Widow Anchor. If you could steal a Diablosis, you're very happy, right? High attack, you're able to just go into it. If you can, you could also steal Shangri-Ira. So Shangri-Ira, how you take this typically is you attack into Shingra-Ira's 3000 defense, then you're able to take it with Triple Tactics Talent, and or with Widow Anchor, you slap Zeus on top of it, and voila, it's now your monster, right? 3 Kagari, best Skystriker Link armor. 3 Shizuku, second best Skystriker Link armor, not by too far from Kagari. Hayate, third best, right? You could cut this down to 2. You could cut Hayate down to 2. It depends on if you're getting that third a lot. I am personally running 3. The only reason why I'm running 3 is because this guy exists. Because Diablosis exists, right? These guys destroy your extra deck, and so it is imperative that you play a lot of copies of the cards that you really need to make sure that your strategy succeeds. Kaina you have as 1, just as a, just in case, right? Being able to stop battle is very nice. Zeke is able to convert stolen monsters with Widow Anchor, with Triple Tactics, right? If you're not able to send it with multi-roll or Area 0, Zeke can, you could use it to transform into Zeke, and Zeke is good for that. That's literally Zeke's almost entire purpose of Zeke, is to convert your stolen monsters into something else, to get rid of them. Now, Dark is pretty good because what happens is you're able to get into Dark with Ray, right, and any monster. So you could convert a stolen monster with Ray into Dark. You're also able to convert a stolen monster with Hornet Drones into Dark because Hornet Drones is Dark. Dark, though, is also able to special summon a Dark monster from your opponent's side of the field. So notably, Dark handles Tearlaments, Despia, and Sprites. So if he's able to special summon, steal a Dark monster, well, then you have Dark, and you have Darker, right? And that allows you to go into Azalea. Azalea needs 2 light and or dark monsters. And we already talked about Azalea a bunch. I have like 2 videos now talking about Azalea, what my problems with Azalea are, why I don't really think she's that great. But to be fair, she has been pretty useful. She has been pretty useful in my more recent matches. Not necessarily as a way to convert monsters, mind you. Like, the 2 light and or dark monster restriction is very tough. It's even tough in engine. Ray and Rose is needed. Ray and Hornet Drones, right? Any combination of Ray, Rose, Hornet Drones, 2 of them are needed. And usually, you're not on an empty board. Usually, you already have a Skystriker armor, right? So a lot of the times, actually fairly, like, in a lot of the more recent games, she was an accessory to my main board. So what do I mean by that is I had to have Hayate have a link arrow point to my board and make Azalea at that spot. Or I had to make Kaina and also make Azalea on that spot. So Azalea, she's alright. She's alright. She handles some problems very well. Being able to get rid of Birth is very, very strong. It is very, very important. And sometimes Azalea is your last resort. It is your absolute last option. And she's there when you need her. If you already have Donner, just play Donner. But Azalea is just slightly better. Is just slightly better just because you are able to get into your Skystriker engine. Azalea go into Hayate, Hayate dump Ray, or Hayate dump Engage, Kagari the Engage, right? Get into your Skystriker engine. That's what Azalea is partially there for. And finally, the final card is Ningirsu. Ningirsu, I have not made Ningirsu that much. I have not made Ningirsu that much. This guy isn't that important. You could replace him with access code Talker, right? But if you are having an especially unlucky day, you're fighting a lot of sprites, then you may want to play Ningirsu. The purpose of Ningirsu is simply to be able to get rid of Avermax that is controlled, or rather made, by IP Masquerena, that is destruction protected, right? Because Ningirsu does not target and it doesn't destroy. It sends to graveyard. At a pretty big cost. You basically need to be able to Shark Cannon the IP Masquerena or some Link 2 monster from the Sprite player's graveyard, right? And you need another Skystriker Link monster as well, right? So it's not easy to get into Ningirsu, and usually when you get into Ningirsu, you're trashing Ningirsu, right? Hopefully you're trashing some other card, but a lot of the times you are trashing him, and at the same time, then their Avermax gets to spin a card, so it's not the cleanest removal, but it is, you know, it's your extra deck tool. It is there in the extra deck if you do need it. I don't really think you need access code, really. Access code talker was obviously the old way. Skystriker was able to push damage in OTK. It is still a good way to push damage. It's not really a good way to OTK anymore because we don't have Halkifferbex, we're not playing Valor, we're not playing Celine, right? So access code talker is a thing, but I mean, yeah, you could use either or. If you're playing against a lot more sprites, use Ningirsu. If you're playing other things, you're not playing that many sprites, play access code talker. Doesn't really matter. So yeah, that is it for the Skystriker deck profile. I hope you guys enjoyed that. I hope you guys learned a little bit of something from someone who plays Skystriker a bunch, right? And if you have any questions, let me know in the comments below. I would definitely like to read them. I'll try and answer as many as I can. Make sure you like and subscribe if you enjoy this type of content. If you enjoy Skystrikers, we are going to be putting up a lot more Skystriker videos moving forward because we do have a lot of footage to go through. I am going to be putting edits of my matches that I have streamed. That way we have commentary, right, if need be, or we're able to just kind of cut to the chase and stop the basically get over the boring parts, right, and just put it there, compile it, right, make really nice edits for the Skystrikers, and so that you're able to learn from those games and learn it at a nice pace as opposed to having to sift through a 6-hour stream to try and find good games. So let me know in the comments what you guys think about this deck list. Let me know if you have any questions. Let me know if you know, what your experience was with Skystrikers. If you tried to make the same climb as me to Master 1, I would definitely love to hear about it, and I will see you all on the next one. Peace.